Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I would like to tell you a little bit about my master thesis, which was about continuous time control charts and how these can be used to detect changes in the quality of care. I was supervised by Stephanie van der Pas. She currently works at the Amsterdam University Medical Center. So what do I mean when I say detecting changes in the quality of care? So suppose that we have multiple hospitals like we do in the Netherlands, and suppose that they all perform a certain procedure. And in this case, let's focus on total hip replacement surgery. What is total hip replacement surgery? Well, it's a surgery which is commonly done for old people when their hip joint starts hurting. It might be necessary to replace your hip joint with this titanium implant. All right, and this procedure is very common. It is extremely likely that every one of you viewers here and online knows at least one person who has had this procedure. For example, my grandmother has also had this procedure. And what are we interested in with this surgery? Well, we are interested in how long after implanting the prosthesis, this prosthesis can survive. What do I mean with survive? Well, after this prosthesis has been implanted, it can happen that the hip joint starts hurting again or something is wrong with the prosthesis, some complication. And in that case, it is necessary to perform another procedure, another surgery. And of course, this is not very nice for the patient. It's detrimental for your health when you have to perform a second procedure. And we call such a procedure a revision hip replacement surgery. Revision is an important word. All right, and what is our goal then? Our goal is to detect hospitals which have high failure rates of the implanted prosthesis. And why do we want to do this? Why do we want to detect these hospitals? Well, then we can provide a signal to the hospital in question, and maybe they can change something to improve the quality of care at their hospital. All right, as luck may have it, the Dutch Arthroplasty Register, or LROI in short, has a data set which contains data on 97 hospitals across the Netherlands. So for example, the Leids Universitair Medisch Centrum or Erasmus MC. And each of these hospitals performs on a yearly basis between 1 and 800 of these total hip replacement surgery procedures. We have the data over a time span of 6 years from 2014 to 2020. And this amounts to a total of 182,000 procedures. So as I said, it's a very common surgery. Besides this, we have some patient characteristics for every patient who has undergone this surgery, such as their age, their BMI, because this is important. When you're very old, you have a higher risk for failure after this surgery, and also maybe if you're very overweight. All right, so what is the current method in place to inspect the quality of care at hospitals? Well, so our goal was indeed to detect problematic hospitals, and what is the current method in place for this? Well, this is the funnel plot, and you can see a funnel plot here, and I'll describe it very shortly. So on the x-axis, we have the number of procedures performed by a hospital. On the y-axis, the proportion of failures of the prosthesis within 1 year. Then each dot on the screen, I'm not sure if you can see it, represents a hospital. We have the average proportion of failures within 1 year, and then the blue lines are the confidence intervals. Then at some point in time, for example, we use the data from 4 years, 2014 to 2018. We say all the hospitals which are above this upper line are performing badly. So we produce a signal, tell them something is wrong, you need to improve the quality of care. All right, so what are some pros of this method? Well, it's very easy to construct and hopefully also very easy to interpret, even for laymen. What are the cons? And this is the main con. This is not a real-time method. You can only produce a funnel plot, for example, once a year or twice a year. And because of this, you always have a delayed detection because of the yearly funnel plot. Besides that, the funnel plot has a lot more problems, but I won't go into detail on them because I don't have the time for it. But two researchers, Biswas and Kalfleis, have devised a new chart which actually negates all of these cons. And we call this chart the continuous time BK-QSUM chart. All right, let's look at such a chart, and you can see it here. This chart can be used to inspect the quality of care at one hospital. So on the x-axis, now instead of number of procedures, we have the time in days from the start of the study. The y-axis, we have the value of the chart. And you can see on day 11, we had an unfavorable outcome. In this case, that would be a failure of a prosthesis. And then the value of the chart goes up and afterwards it slopes down depending on the number of people at risk at that time point and their probability of failure at that time point. We continue this to plot this chart until at some point the chart crosses a control limit, h here, which I've taken at 1, and we produce a signal saying that this hospital is performing badly. All right, what are some pros of this method? Well, it's a real-time test. As you saw, on the x-axis, we have the time in days, so we can perform this test at any time. This is a very big pro with regards to the funnel plot. Besides this, it's also quite easy to construct, and I hope that it was easy to interpret for everyone in the public. The cons, well, maybe you noticed, but the chart jumps upwards with fixed sizes. In this case, it's the logarithm of 2, and because of this, often we have delays in detection. Besides that, it is quite hard to determine a value for the control limit such that the chart performs well. All right, so to negate one of the cons, we have devised another new chart, which is the continuous time generalized rapid response QSIM, or CGR QSIM in short. I'll just use the short name from now on. And we can see one of those charts here, and also the chart on the previous slide, the BK QSIM chart, still in green here. It's exactly the same hospital. So we're inspecting the same hospital using both charts. And we can see that on the 11th day, when a patient experiences a failure, our chart jumps up by less because that patient was very likely to fail at that time point. But on day 22, I think here, the chart jumps up by a way larger value. And because of this, we pass the control limit earlier and produce an earlier signal. This is because this patient was very unlikely to fail at this time point. And by using this chart, we can thus produce even faster signals and faster improve the quality of care at hospitals. So the pros of this chart are that it can produce jumps of any size, depending on the risk of the patient at that point in time. Besides this, it's also a real-time testing procedure. It's very quick in detection. The cons are you still have to choose a control limit, so the same con as with the BK QSIM. And it is quite computationally demanding, but not problematically so because I did my whole thesis on my own personal computer and well, performed all tests for all the hospitals, and it was doable. So this continuous time, so the CGR QSIM, the statistic I show you here, it's this thing maximized over the last n minus k patients, and we derive this by combining generalized likelihood ratio theory with survival analysis. And then we determine some properties of this chart using queuing theory, such as the average time it takes for a chart to detect a problematic hospital. All right, so now that I've shown you all these methods, well, what can we gain by using them on the data set from the Dutch Arthroplasty Register? So as I said, currently they use the funnel plot. So if we take this as baseline, then using the BK QSIM, we can detect the hospitals, the 97 hospitals on median 14 months faster when they have a problem. Using the CGR QSIM, we can actually detect hospitals median 19 months faster. So that's quite a lot of, that's quite a big improvement in detection of problems. And this way we can really quickly improve the quality of care at hospitals. So of course, the Dutch Arthroplasty Register is very happy with this result. And they've said that they want to implement QSIM procedures as soon as possible so they can quickly improve the quality of care. But I've only talked about hip transplant surgery. But this procedure can be used in the medical field where a survival process is present. So in any survival process. So it's not limited to hip transplantation surgery. And besides this, QSIM procedures, their initial purpose was to control the quality of manufacturing processes. So it's not only limited to the medical field, but also to manufacturing processes. For example, a production process, for example, chips or something, if you want to inspect the quality of what you're producing. Or if you want to see whether your clients are unhappy with the products or services you're providing. So I hope I have convinced you to use the CGR QSIM for your quality inspection purposes, and thank you for your time.